Loopy, this is a gorgeous place. I shouldn't mind being a film star if I could have something like this.
Oh, Charlie, you haven't seen nothing yet, I'm telling you.
At her peak on Broadway, Peg Entwistle commanded a substantial salary of $1,000 per week, equivalent to roughly $20,000 today. Her theatrical success earned her critical acclaim and financial stability, with productions like Tommy and The Mad Hopes solidifying her reputation as a bankable stage actress. Her financial decline began with her ambitious move to Hollywood, where she invested most of her savings in establishing herself in the film industry. Unlike her Broadway success, Hollywood proved far less lucrative. Her sole film role in RKO's 13 Women earned her a modest $300 per week, but the contrast was short-lived. The film's extensive editing reduced her role significantly, diminishing her chances for future roles. The Great Depression's impact on the entertainment industry further complicated her situation. Theater productions were scaling back, and film studios were becoming increasingly selective. Entwistle's living expenses in Los Angeles, including rent for her Hollywood Hills apartment and attempts to maintain appearance for potential casting opportunities, quickly depleted her remaining Broadway earnings. By September 1932, her financial situation had become dire. Unable to pay her rent and facing eviction, she had pawned most of her possessions. Her uncle, whom she lived with, later revealed that she had less than $100 to her name. When her body was discovered beneath the Hollywood sign, she carried only a small purse containing 13 cents, a letter from a possible casting opportunity, and an expired Actors Union card. Known as the girl who is too beautiful, Barbara Lamar epitomized the excesses of Hollywood's golden era. Her meteoric rise from script girl to leading lady captured the imagination of audiences and studio executives alike, making her one of silent film's most bankable stars. At her peak in 1923, Lamar commanded $6,500 per week, an astronomical sum equivalent to nearly $110,000 today. Her films grossed millions, and her popularity led to lucrative endorsement deals for everything from cosmetics to cigarettes. Metro Pictures, later MGM, invested heavily in her stardom, providing her with lavish costumes and publicity campaigns. However, Lamar's spending habits were legendary even by Hollywood standards. She maintained 3 fully staffed mansions in Beverly Hills, employed a dozen servants, and owned a fleet of custom automobiles. Her wardrobe included over 300 pairs of shoes and countless designer gowns, many worn only once. She hosted extravagant parties that would last for days, with champagne fountains and orchestras entertaining Hollywood's elite. Her financial downfall came swiftly. Multiple failed marriages resulted in costly divorces and legal battles. She invested heavily in questionable business ventures, including a disastrous attempt to produce her own films. As her health declined due to drug addiction and a grueling work schedule, she spent fortunes on doctors and experimental treatments. By 1926, at just 29, Lamar was essentially bankrupt. Her final days were spent in a modest Altadena bungalow, unable to afford proper medical care. When she died that same year, her estate was valued at less than $200. Her friend, actress Zazu Pitts, had to cover the funeral expenses, while Lamar's extensive wardrobe and jewelry collection was auctioned to pay outstanding debts. Marie Prevost's journey from Mack Sennett bathing beauty to sophisticated comedian made her one of silent film's most versatile stars. Her infectious laugh and impeccable timing turned her into Universal's prime box office draw, commanding attention both on-screen and in the society pages. During her heyday, in the mid-1920s, Prevost earned an impressive $2,000 per week at Warner Brothers, with bonuses pushing her annual income above $100,000, equivalent to nearly $1.5 million today. Her contract included unprecedented perks, a personal makeup artist, chauffeur, and first-class accommodations for location shoots. Product endorsements and public appearances doubled her income. Prevost's spending reflected her status. She owned a palatial Beverly Hills estate with imported Italian marble floors and a movie theater. Her weakness for designer clothes, particularly from Paris fashion houses, led to monthly shopping sprees exceeding $10,000. She maintained a stable of thoroughbred horses and collected rare automobiles, including a custom-built Rolls-Royce. The advent of talkies marked the beginning of her financial collapse. Though her voice tested well, mounting personal problems and increasing alcohol dependency made her unreliable. Studios began cutting her salary, eventually offering only day player rates of $50. A series of failed investments in California real estate during the Depression wiped out her savings. By 1937, Prevost was living in a run-down Hollywood apartment, pawning possessions to buy food and alcohol. Her final role paid just $25. When her body was discovered, her bank account contained $11, and she owed months of back rent. The Motion Picture Relief Fund stepped in to prevent a pauper's burial, while former co-stars quietly contributed to provide a dignified farewell to the once wealthy star. Frances Farmer's tumultuous Hollywood story stands as one of the industry's most tragic tales of promise, wealth, and devastating decline. Her striking beauty and raw talent quickly caught Paramount's attention, transforming her from a Seattle theater actress into one of the studio's most promising stars of the late 1930s. At her career peak, Farmer earned $1,500 per week under her Paramount contract, comparable to $30,000 today. Her starring roles in Come and Get It and Son of Fury positioned her as a serious dramatic actress, commanding additional bonuses for publicity appearances on radio shows. The studio invested heavily in her image, providing an extensive wardrobe and luxurious accommodation allowances. Unlike many of her contemporaries, Farmer's spending wasn't particularly extravagant. She maintained a comfortable Hollywood home and drove a modest Packard, investing most of her earnings in government bonds and savings accounts. However, her fortune began eroding through a series of legal battles, including a contentious divorce, multiple arrests, and mounting legal fees from her increasingly public personal struggles. The true financial devastation came from her forced institutionalization in 1942. Her mother, appointed as her guardian, gained control of her assets. Years of psychiatric treatments, including controversial procedures at Western State Hospital, drained her savings. The facilities charged premium rates, while her inability to work meant no new income. By the 1950s, Farmer had lost everything. After her release, she worked as a hotel receptionist for $65 a week, a devastating fall from her Hollywood salary. Her 1958 autobiography, Will There Really Be a Morning?, provided some income, but she died in 1970 with barely enough money to cover her funeral expenses. The Screen Actors Guild ultimately contributed to her burial costs, a final testament to how far the once promising star had fallen. Veronica Lake, with her iconic peekaboo hairstyle and sultry presence, defined 1940s Hollywood glamour. Her rise from commercial model to Paramount Pictures' leading lady seemed like a fairy tale, though it would eventually unravel into one of Hollywood's most sobering cautionary tales. At her zenith in 1943, Lake commanded $4,500 per week at Paramount, approximately $75,000 in today's money. Her collaboration with Alan Ladd in films like This Gun for Hire and The Blue Dahlia were box office gold. Additional income flowed from merchandise licensing, with her distinctive hairstyle spawning a nationwide trend in beauty salons. Cosmetic companies paid premium rates for her endorsements, and her fashion line of evening gowns added substantially to her wealth. Despite her significant earnings, Lake's spending was relatively modest by Hollywood standards. Her major expenditures centered on her Beverly Hills home and a small ranch in the San Fernando Valley. However, her financial decline stemmed from a perfect storm of personal and professional setbacks. 3 expensive divorces drained her savings, while her increasingly difficult reputation and struggles with alcohol led to fewer roles and smaller paychecks. By the mid-1950s, Lake's career had collapsed. Mental health issues and alcoholism took their toll, leading to hospitalizations that further depleted her resources. She attempted a comeback with her 1969 autobiography Veronica, but the modest proceeds couldn't offset her mounting debts. Her final years were spent in near poverty. She worked as a bartender in New York and later as a waitress in Montreal, earning minimum wage. When she died in 1973, she had less than $400 to her name. The motion picture Country Home had to assist with her funeral expenses, while her memorabilia, including her signature Oscar nomination plaque, was sold at auction to settle outstanding debts. From earning thousands per week to living in a small Montreal apartment, Lake's financial descent mirrors the darker side of Hollywood's golden age. Mabel Normand stands as one of silent cinema's most influential, yet financially tragic figures. As Mack Sennett's leading lady and creative partner, she helped shape the language of film comedy while becoming one of the industry's first female directors and producers. During her peak years of 1916 to 1920, Normand's earning power was extraordinary. Her contract with Goldwyn Pictures guaranteed $3,500 weekly, equivalent to roughly $50,000 today. Additional income came from her own production company, Mabel Normand Feature Film Company, where she earned both star salary and producer profits. Her total annual earnings often exceeded $150,000, making her one of the highest-paid women in America. Normand's spending reflected both her success and generosity. She maintained a Beverly Hills mansion with a staff of 12, owned multiple vehicles including a custom Peace Arrow, and wore exclusively tailored Lucille gowns. However, her most notable expenditures were charitable. She regularly donated to orphanages and funded education for aspiring actresses. She was known for impulsively helping crew members in need, sometimes giving away thousands in a single day. Her financial decline began with a series of scandals in the 1920s. Legal fees from various investigations, though she was never charged with any crime, drained her savings. The negative publicity led to reduced roles and lower salaries. Her battle with tuberculosis required expensive treatments, including lengthy stays at sanitariums that cost thousands monthly. By 1929, Normand's resources were severely depleted. Despite earning millions throughout her career, her final years were spent largely dependent on the generosity of friends, particularly William Desmond Taylor. When she died in 1930, her estate was valued at just $10,000, barely enough to cover her medical debts. Her husband, Lew Cody, had to borrow money to provide her with a dignified burial. The cruel irony was that just months after her death, several of her films were rediscovered and re-released, generating substantial profits that she would never see. Today, her contributions to early cinema are celebrated, but her financial story serves as a sobering reminder of how quickly Hollywood fortunes could disappear. Thelma Todd, known affectionately as Hot Toddy to her fans, represented the quick-witted, sophisticated comedy style of 1930s Hollywood. Her transition from Massachusetts schoolteacher to Hal Roach Studios' comedy queen showcases one of the more intriguing success stories of the era. At her peak around 1931 to 1935, Todd commanded $2,000 per week from her film contracts. That's approximately $40,000 in today's money. She shrewdly diversified her income by opening Thelma Todd's Sidewalk Cafe on Roosevelt Highway in Pacific Palisades, a sophisticated night spot that attracted Hollywood's elite. The restaurant reportedly grossed over $3,500 weekly during its best periods, proving her business acumen extended beyond the silver screen. Unlike many stars who splurged on mansions, Todd invested primarily in real estate and her restaurant business. She owned her cafe building outright and maintained a modest but elegant home in the Pacific Palisades. Her most extravagant personal possession was a gleaming Lincoln convertible, a gift from her studio for completing a successful string of comedies with Zazu Pitts. However, Todd's financial story took a dark turn. Her restaurant, while successful, became entangled in complicated dealings with local gangsters who wanted to convert its upper floors into an illegal gambling club. She faced mounting pressure and threats regarding the business, leading to increased security expenses and legal fees. Her mysterious death in 1935, found in her garage under suspicious circumstances, left numerous financial questions unanswered. At the time of her death, she had approximately $35,000 in assets, about $700,000 today, primarily tied up in her restaurant property. However, her estate faced multiple claims from business partners and alleged creditors, significantly reducing its final value. The most tragic aspect was that Todd had just negotiated a new film contract that would have paid her $3,500 weekly, plus a percentage of profits. She had also drawn up plans to expand her restaurant into a chain of cafes along the California coast. These unrealized ventures suggest that, had she lived, Todd might have become one of Hollywood's most successful businesswomen rather than one of its most enduring mysteries. Lupe Velez, the Mexican Spitfire, embodied the fiery Latin glamour of Hollywood's golden age. Her journey from Mexican vaudeville to RKO Pictures stardom illustrates both the opportunities and pitfalls of 1930s Hollywood success. At her career peak, from 1928 to 1934, Velez earned $2,500 weekly at Universal Studios, approximately $50,000 in today's currency. Her Mexican Spitfire series in the 1940s brought additional success, though at a reduced rate of $1,500 per week. She supplemented her film income with successful vaudeville tours, commanding $5,000 per week for live performances, and regularly performed at prestigious venues like New York's Palace Theater. Velez's spending habits matched her dramatic personality. She maintained a lavish Beverly Hills estate featuring imported Spanish tiles and custom-made furniture. Her weakness was jewelry. She owned an extensive collection of emeralds and diamonds, including several pieces gifted by her various romantic partners. Her wardrobe was legendary, filled with custom designs from Adrian and other top designers. Financial troubles began mounting in the mid-1940s. Her expensive divorce from Johnny Weissmuller, which reportedly cost her over $100,000 in legal fees and settlements, combined with diminishing film roles and expensive lifestyle maintenance, steadily eroded her wealth. The shift in Hollywood away from the type of ethnic comedy she specialized in further reduced her earning potential. By 1944, Velez's financial situation had become precarious. While not destitute, she still had approximately $25,000 in assets. She faced mounting debts and declining career prospects. The revelation of an unplanned pregnancy and a failed relationship led to her tragic death in December 1944. Her death revealed a complex financial situation. While she still owned significant jewelry and property, she also had substantial debts, including unpaid taxes. Her estate, initially valued at $150,000, was significantly reduced by creditor claims and legal fees. The final irony was that her attempt to create a dignified death scene, which became sensationalized in Hollywood lore, consumed most of her remaining liquid assets on elaborate preparations that went awry. Her brother had to rely on help from the Motion Picture Relief Fund to provide her with a proper burial in Mexico City. Velez's story represents the particular challenges faced by ethnic stars in Hollywood's golden age, earning significant sums but often typecast in roles that limited their long-term earning potential, while trying to maintain the glamorous lifestyle expected of a movie star. Lila Lee's career arc spans the transition from silent films to talkies, illustrating both the immense wealth possible in early Hollywood and its often fleeting nature. Starting as a child vaudeville performer Cuddles, she became one of Paramount's leading actresses in the 1920s. At her peak from 1922 to 1927, Lee earned $1,750 weekly from Paramount, approximately $27,000 in today's money. Additional income came from personal appearances and endorsements, particularly for beauty products. Her total annual earnings in peak years exceeded $100,000, substantial wealth for the 1920s. Her starring role in Cecil B. DeMille's Blood and Sand with Rudolph Valentino significantly increased her earning power. Lee maintained an elegant lifestyle befitting a star, though not as extravagant as some contemporaries. She owned a Mediterranean-style mansion in Beverly Hills and was known for her collection of fine automobiles, including a custom-built Rolls-Royce. However, her most significant expenses came from her medical treatments. She suffered from chronic respiratory problems that required frequent hospital stays. Her financial decline began with the transition to sound films, compounded by health issues. A severe bout of tuberculosis in 1929 forced her to retreat to a sanitarium in Arizona, costing thousands in treatment while unable to work. The extended absence damaged her career momentum, just as talking pictures were becoming standard. Though she attempted comebacks in the 1930s, she could only secure supporting roles at greatly reduced salaries, often as little as $250 per week. Her health issues persisted, requiring ongoing expensive treatments. By the late 1930s, she was working in Poverty Row Productions for minimal pay. The 1940s saw Lee reduced to bar pits and occasional television work. She declared bankruptcy in 1952, listing assets of only $1,500 against substantial debts. Her final years were spent living modestly in California's San Fernando Valley, largely supported by the Motion Picture Country House and Hospital. When she died in 1973, she had virtually no estate to speak of. The Motion Picture Relief Fund covered her funeral expenses. The trajectory from child star to leading lady to near destitution makes Lee's story a particularly poignant example of Hollywood's boom and bust cycle, complicated by the additional burden of chronic illness. Florence Lawrence, the first movie star, pioneered both Hollywood stardom and its potential pitfalls. Her story is particularly significant as she was the first film performer to be publicly named, breaking the anonymous biograph girl tradition in 1910. At her peak from 1909 to 1912, Lawrence's earnings were unprecedented for the era. Carl Laemmle's IMP, Independent Moving Pictures, paid her $500 weekly, an astronomical sum when most film actors earned $5 to $10 per day. Her marketing value was so high that Laemmle orchestrated the first publicity stunt in film history, falsely reporting her death to generate press coverage. Lawrence invested much of her earnings in two significant ventures: a cosmetics company and an automobile turn signal design. She patented the first auto-signaling arm, a mechanical turn signal, but failed to monetize it before the patent expired. Her cosmetics line, primarily sold through mail order, initially showed promise but suffered from distribution problems. Her financial decline began around 1915 as newer stars emerged. A serious back injury from a studio fire in 1915 left her with chronic pain and mounting medical bills. She attempted comebacks, but found herself relegated to bit parts at drastically reduced wages, often as low as $75 per week. The 1929 stock market crash devastated her remaining savings. Her cosmetics company failed during the Depression, and she lost her home. By the 1930s, she was working as an extra for $3 per day when she could find work at all. A final blow came when MGM dropped her from their extra roster in 1937. Lawrence's final years were marked by extreme poverty. She lived in a small Hollywood apartment on a combination of welfare payments and occasional help from the Motion Picture Relief Fund. Unable to afford proper medical care for her chronic conditions, she died in 1938, having consumed ant paste poison. Her estate consisted of only $13 in cash. The cruel irony of her story lies in the fact that the turn signal she invented, but couldn't afford to protect legally, became a standard automobile feature worth millions. Today, she's remembered more for this invention than for her pioneering role in creating the star system that would make later actors wealthy. Her death certificate listed her occupation as housekeeper rather than actress, a final indignity for cinema's first named star.